We are live, apparently.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to Simpsons Hit and Run. My name is Axie. I'm a runner of a game in quotation marks. Joining me today is another two quote-unquote runners,
With
Lexi
even
and
bigger
Lambton.
quotation marks. Hello, I'm Lambton.
We couldn't get the budget for actual proper runners today. I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah. If you'd like to count me into a run, either of you two.
On Lexi.
Nah, Lambton, I think you've got this. You're a maths boy.
Okay. What do I, from 3 or 5? What do you want?
3.
Right. 3, 2, 1, go.
And we're off. And we get to see a cutscene straight away.
Something we don't normally see, though. About 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years, we made a save file that allows you to bypass this entirely. Originally, like, if you wanted to start a new game, it was a 40-second just like, okay, time to cool down and listen to this very cool cola ad with ingredients that are way too hot for the FDA.
Oh, it's one of the nicer things I think that's been added in.
I
Having
suppose so.
to. Like it's fun to watch every now and then. But this is the Simpsons Hit and Run 2003 driving game mostly.
And if you're watching and thinking, hey, this looks a lot like Grand Theft Auto. No, it doesn't.
Were you about to say Gran Turismo?
I've been playing a lot of Gran Turismo. Genuinely, I've been playing a lot of Gran Turismo 3 to while away the hours. And this bears a striking resemblance to Gran Turismo, the true driving simulator, Simpsons Hit and Run. So do you...
Short tutorial mission there. Drive somewhere, collect thing.
Sadly, we're not playing on a console version which has the Bart narration. Alright, player 1, Homer. It's very obnoxious, frankly.
So, do I go for school roof? Is your question.
Absolutely.
You do you.
I had an absolutely.
So this game has a few major tricks in it. It's mostly just like a sort of you deal with it as it comes because like there's a degree of RNG. Because at any point there are 5 different traffic cards which can exist at any one time. But so like only 5 exist at any one time, but they just sort of like, phase in and out of reality, kind of. And when you see Axie there flick the camera forwards and backwards, what's happening is that you're essentially kind of like re-rolling the game's decision about where those cars exist. And the game does have a degree of object permanence where a car will exist if it's extremely close to you, even if you do that little trick. But it's something you will notice if like RNG is being particularly like unfortunate for us. We're gonna do something where we just like flick the camera backwards and just essentially like have a re-roll of the car positioning. It's one of the major tricks.
Actually, is collecting those coins because in the run there are certain cars and costumes the game forces you to buy to continue the game. And there's
I wasn't expecting a main menu warp this early.
Yeah, with the main menu, we'll have to explain that now too. So the wasps are done kind of weird in this game. So wasps start with collision. So if a wasp has collision, you can hit it and destroy it with your car, which is fast. But when you destroy a wasp, it no longer has collision, and there's 2 wasps. The game just uses the same 2 wasps.
Although 3.
20 wasps in the level.
There are 3 potential in Homer 1 only, which is the first level.
And Lisa. Homer 1 and Lisa.
Yeah, and the reason why we do main menu warping is that, again, this game is not very well coded, so if you leave the level in any way, which can include warping to another level, which you're going to see midway through the run in the Apu level, or go to the main menu and reload the game, both of those essentially like reset that counter. And the reason why is that you notice that when Axie drives into boxes and vending machines, the coins just sort of like gravitate towards them, just like, which is a lot faster than having to destroy it on foot, where you have to actually physically run around to get within the coins, like, you know, gravity, I guess, to make sure it'll actually come to you. And that's like why it's much better for us to be destroying things in our cars rather than rather than on foot, which is why we do those menu warps. And that's a bit of a nasty park there, Axie. What are you doing?
Yeah, that was not an ideal park there. So.
What frame rate are you playing on, out of curiosity?
60.
Oh, yes, it's one of those runs.
Oh, yeah, you don't get that one.
Alanton, do you want to talk about the FPS counter and how it affects our beautiful Char?
Okay, so the physics are heavily linked to the FPS. So the main thing is you deal more damage on lower FPS, but you get less like speed boost off the ground because that's how the game's coded. There's some other things. There's a few cutscene skips in the run, and you've got longer windows for them on lower FPS, and it also affects the out of bounds in level 7. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, and to briefly touch on the cutscene skips, which are going to come up at the end of level 2, level 5, and level 6. Basically, so whenever Axie finishes a mission, you're going to see like the mission complete thing come up. And what that does is actually kind of like it paralyzes the game for 3 seconds. Where you can't mission warp, you can't do a few other things, and all of the vehicles within a certain vicinity despawn. Which is why at the end of this mission, we're going to see a little trick where we don't park as close as we can to Flanders at the end. Or no, wait, sorry, that was the last mission. I thought we were still in petty theft. Sorry, I just like thought Axie was that slow, but you know, but yeah, it's a trick wherein like there's a very brief period of time where the cutscene hasn't loaded yet, but the sort of like mission complete screen goes away, and if you can spam fast enough, you can get the one frame to pause on, and then you can just mission warp, which just circumvents the cutscenes, which are 55 seconds, 2 minutes 35 seconds, and 52 seconds, I think, respectively. Maybe 48 seconds on the last one.
First real strat of the game here, though, actually gets it very nicely. Getting Smithers into this corner to trap him and quickly deal damage against the wall of that house.
You say nicely, that was about as scuffed as you could get it, and still you get it.
True. And the car you actually pick is somewhat dictates how you play, because the family sedan, the car Homer drives, is very, very bad. And the vehicles on the road, traffic cars, the crusty glass truck, the pickup truck, which we call the Yeet because apparently we're all Australian, and the minivan are all better. The minivan is quite strong, so it's very good for that mission, but you'll notice in the next mission where we're going to be following a van, it is very, very difficult to handle, so there will be moments where you're going to see Axie really have to deal with kind of like controlling the minivan in a bit of a difficult way and running into the wall here. It's a very interesting strat. Are we going for scorpions?
No, he did not.
No, why?
Why?
Because the scorpions are an old meme, and I'm an old person, but you know.
Scorpion strats have been like, you know, they have been sort of like codified in marathon runs of Char. That's all I'm saying. You have to do it. And this is an unskippable cutscene. I believe we had a bit of a bounty out for a while, that if you could find a way to skip these cutscenes, which I think there are only 2 of them, if I remember correctly. One of them, this one's about 50 seconds. The next one's about a minute and almost a minute on the dot, actually.
A minute and 3? Yeah, I think it's a minute 3.
But yeah, so there was a little bounty out as to whether we're ever going to be able to skip these, and nobody found a way.
Yeah.
And we have a pretty big community, so like I'd expect that we would probably be able to find it somehow eventually, if it was possible, which I don't think it is, without like basically destroying the game entirely.
Yeah, I don't think the way though, because this one, like, you need to go through that to hit the trigger to start this mission, and the other one actually comes during a mission.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen like one case of second one being skipped.
Oh yeah, someone lagged the game out so much it just like couldn't load the cutscene anymore or something.
And I love it. Okay, so in the early levels, there's this thing called rubber banding. So this game has only a couple of different types of mission it does. You destroy things, you go around to destroy them, you hit something to make it drop something, you're trying to destroy the vehicle itself, you're trying to pick things up, or you're trying to stay within a certain vicinity of a vehicle, or you're trying to escape a vehicle. I think that's an exhaustive list, but either way.
Did you say
So
race?
in the race, thank you.
Uh-huh.
There's a very important mission that's a race that we're going to see later on in March. But basically, the closer you are, the faster that goes, because it's trying to create the illusion of being a difficult mission. But if actually hangs back, you're going to see the van slow down, because it's trying to be like, oh, I'm a children's
I
game.
got
I
lost.
don't want
Actually,
you,
right.
a poor little child, to lose. And you're actually going to notice now, just look at how slowly that's going down right there. The van just does not want to escape. It's really trying to give Axie every chance to not fail this mission. And frankly, I think Axie is going to confound us all and still manage to fail it. Well done,
It's
Axie.
really close.
Okay, so that wasn't how you do that mission.
At all. But as you can see now, the van is starting to pick up pace, and that's because Axie has gotten closer to it again. And that was slightly risky. You can actually end up spawning underneath the car if you mount that kind of central, kind of sarcophagus-looking thing in the middle of the Stonecutter's tunnel.
Yeah.
And that will actually cause you to fail the mission. Fun fact, I did it many times.
So at the end of that mission, actually was out of the car on foot. There is no rubber banding, so we'll just go at full speed.
And you don't actually have to get to the end point of the object vehicle. You only have to let it get to its object to finish, which is why we can actually get out of the car far in advance. So
This
Bone
is
Storm.
first hit and collect mission. You gotta hit the vehicle with enough force to cause it to drop the item.
You notice there's like a little sort of like spark animation, and that tends to signify that you have managed to hit it hard enough, although there have been a few hits where that hasn't happened. Now on the left you see that little path there. It's a shortcut which ideally we want to have gotten all 10 by in order to take it, just to sort of like fold the mission in on itself a wee bit. But actually didn't quite manage it. But honestly, Bone Storm is not a mission where you expect to get like the best strat unless you're quite a good runner, by which I mean like you get 125s or so.
And here we have ESS for the first time in the game.
Let's go. So how does ESS work, Lambton?
So you use a phone booth, and then once you've used it, you press your in-cars change camera button, and for some reason, because the game's code is broken, it puts you into mouse look mode, which is another camera mode, and it gives you a free pan in the next time you walk. And there, Axie has used the reset car type feature to spawn it or phase through the wall of the power plant to take this big shortcut. So the way the car reset works is it puts you to the closest road, which happens to be in the door.
And Family Sedan is very strange in that like there's a lot of car like towards the back, and the way in which the reset point like locates itself is based on the position of where like the player sits in the car. And because there's so much Family Sedan like behind you, it means you're half through the wall. And once you're half through the wall, there's no collision, so you can just like basically cheat that mission, because the whole point of it is that it's supposed to be like, oh, we're finished level 1, let's do a full tour around the entire length of it. and we just turned it into like a 52-second mission. And
Yeah.
this is another traffic car. The sports car is the best, and then it's the taxi, but the taxi has garbage handling, so ideally we don't want to pick it up. But Axie does manage to pick up the sports car nicely.
The fastest car we have right now, by quite a way. And yes, the Homer-mobile does show up later under the name Car Built for Homer.
Manages the escape, but it's something we tend to get quite handily. There is a way to get away from him, even if you don't escape, is that the interiors of this game, a lot of old games, instead of like, showing you going inside a building, will just do that sort of like, a black screen for a second, because it actually teleports you very far away to where the interior of the building actually is coded to be. So if you go into the interior of any building when you're being chased by someone you have to escape, you automatically escape them because you literally disappear to like some far off land, because that's where the interior of every building actually exists. And this mission is one of the very important ones when it comes to getting a traffic vehicle. So you may notice if you play this game that there is an animation for your character to get into vehicles. But the thing is, like, the coders aren't really that good, and they didn't consider, what if you're getting into a traffic vehicle? So they just thought, well, we'll just warp you in. Okay, that's fine. And this mission requires you to get in and out of your car, I think, 9 times in total.
Yeah, it would be 9 warps, I think.
Mm-hmm. So either A, if you were using the honor roller, which is Bart's default car in this mission, you'd have to jump in order to skip the animation of him getting in. And also, if you jump on certain parts of a car, they've still managed to code it so that you don't actually skip the animation. And that is just hellish when you're playing, like, especially in NG Plus, where we do use a car with an animation to get into. When you do actually trigger that animation anyways, it is hell.
Here's another thing with the road node. So by going off-road here, it's going to confuse Wiggum, so Axie gets an easy escape here. The AI follow cars tend to have a bad time following you off-road.
Normally we turn sharper around there, but because it's a marathon, if you don't get the escape, you lose like so much time. I think it's like 20 seconds sometimes, so it's safer to just go straight and yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't get that wasp as a freebie there. I do not have the GIF open of the wasp cycle.
Yeah, so if you look at wasps as they move, they have this sort of almost pendulum thing going on where they kind of like make a W shape in the air. And you ideally want to hit the wasp when it's on like the lower left part of its pathing. And that's how, because obviously, like, closer to the ground, that's where you are in your car. And that's what I'm talking about earlier with the whole way the game kind of paralyzes itself when the mission complete thing comes on, because the character will do their celebration. If you jump or do any kind of action during that moment when the mission complete comes on, you can just like run throughout that time when normally the character should be celebrating, which allows us to do important things like run to the next location we need to go to. And this is a little letter called "Why Taxi is Bad" in this video game. It is very hard to handle, and it is difficult to do dirt jump skip, which is where we go alongside the van in order to manipulate him to go up the dirt jump with us and bypass this little circuitous route.
Yeah, the handling, I think slightly different shape, slightly lower acceleration, and the fact that Axie's on 60 FPS will contribute to making it not really viable in this situation.
Mm-hmm. Opting for... Can I ask you why you're doing this, Axie? This is something like that's very, very old school. And this is exactly why we don't do it, because the van just does this sometimes, and if it gets caught on the other side, it can be even worse. What we would normally do there is we would turn into the train car that Axie took during the first mission of this, where we were being chased by Principal Skinner. And are we gonna actually get this box here? We just about got there in time. You see those 31 coins coming in.
I actually couldn't go into the train yard because the black fan can go two ways. It can turn right, which is what you want, but because it went straight on it, it's in theory faster route, but it has a chance of getting stuck around that train car. So I actually couldn't go into the shortcut because of the risk of it just getting stuck there.
Yes, so because I got caught on a traffic pole earlier, and there's like a bit by the elevator where you need to be a certain radius behind to be able to not let it like okay.
Kind of surprised that worked.
Go right. So yeah.
A little shortcut there. You just jump across to the side there and drop down to the lower level.
I wasn't expecting it to 360 me like that, but it worked.
I thought you were just going to end up on the other side of that jump, like where you intended to land.
I thought you were just doing it for style points. And we get the wasp, hooray!
Did you not get the? You must have missed the hospital one then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that.
I must have missed Vox and Hospitalized, so I only missed Vox, but yeah. So,
and the main menu warp to reset that wasp counter.
Yeah, because I missed the two in the last mission, I'm going to do the double main menu warp. Because at the moment I'm trying to get enough coins to not have to do Krusty Loop, because I did score with.
I like how you took like the sort of really safe route at the end of Weapons of Mass Delinquency, and yet you're still like, yeah, sure, I'll get School Roof, why not?
Yeah. I mean, School Roof Gang, rise up.
I think if you do it very optimally, it's a little faster than the head across the road. But there isn't much in it.
It's one of the first times I've run this category without having splits up, and it's kind of weird.
It's okay. I can help with you. You're red. So we did actually slightly fold the mission on itself there. That roadkill we pick up right there, I think is supposed to be the 8th, kind of intended on the kind of like, you know, path that is clearly being designated by the fact you can see the next roadkill every time you pick one up. But we do that just because pickup truck has horrible acceleration. So wherever we can, we try to make sure we have long straights that we don't have to lose our momentum for. And Apu Escape is fine. What you can do...
ever so slightly shorter route, because you take a different train shortcut, which means you actually do less of a drive up there, because the shortcut on the way back has a little more driving to it.
That is true.
Yeah, that was a good escape.
You can go into the park where Axie was just about to drive into, and Apu will just get totally lost in there.
Yeah, you do like a U-turn, and you go out in a gap in the wall, just to the left of the entrance, and Apu will get stuck trying to leave it.
So we buy Mr. Plow here, it's the fastest place to do it, and we have to do it. Although there has been a case where somebody tried to buy it in a forced car mission, which isn't possible.
Wait, what?
That was,
I thought you were gonna say like there was a case where someone referred to Bart as Homer's husband. I think that was sadly once was because I'm old. I'm old, decrepit, and this community has taken so much from me without giving anything back. Sign skip. Yes, sign skip is one of the most difficult strats in hit and run. It is only to be attempted by high class runners, of which Axie had to receive very top secret, like official classified, like clearance to actually even be allowed to attempt in this marathon run. But it's very good to see it done. It's beautiful.
fast
Brings a
on the
tear to your eye,
tripod,
honestly.
You saw Axe try to the left to grab a box up there. It can be quite tricky. You got to get your speed timed well.
On 60, there's a fine balance between bonking off a wall and not getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can very easily fall short, and I'm not quite sure which is more humiliating, falling short or going too far.
As long as you get a monkey, like
yeah,
going too
if
far
you go
is
too
fine.
far and also you go so far you don't get the monkey, that's the worst.
That is horrible. That is. So we're gonna pick up a wasp on foot, and you see that once you get into the car, as long as you're close enough to a lot of coins, they tend to have a greater kind of gravity towards you than when you're on foot. So there are certain times when getting back into a car after you just destroyed a wasp is advantageous, because you see here with this wasp, it does take a little bit of extra time to run around to make sure you pick them all up, which is why the whole making sure wasps have collision thing is quite important.
Speaking of picking things up, actually, going out of his way to pick up that card for the fans.
Oh yeah, the AM radio, little boy down the well. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, there's 7 of those cards in each level.
And which one is the best?
Bart's Soul.
Interesting.
You'd say Ganesh, right? I have to say it for you.
Wow.
That's your... Yeah? That's what I meant to say, I can't remember.
I'm quite fond of a Mr. Player Jacket myself.
Oh, that's fair.
See, I like Bart's Soul because there's a line Lisa can say saying, "I hope I don't have to share this with Bart."
I've never made that connection before.
What's the one that is in? Okay, yeah, we should probably explain this mission because it's quite important.
Yeah,
so
Destruction.
you have to destroy 4 cars with their cell phones because they could interfere with Trichosaurus and cause many deaths.
We're trying to get Trichosaurus, I think.
Yeah.
Because that can't get a phone store.
So
it's very deep, heavy plot here.
So basically, the first car is pretty handy, and we want to destroy him in a way which keeps us moving in the direction he wants to go, because he's going towards the second car anyways. So us kind of hitting him in a way that stops him is bad for us because we kind of have the same place we want to end up. The second car is a bit tricky, but the third car takes a while to get into the central plaza where we tend to do most of our damage to the cars. So second car can be a little bit forgiving, whereas fourth car, which is what Axie's on right now, is very unforgiving, like comes in like a bat out of hell, and if you have not set yourself up well, you can be very, very unfortunate. Managing a 552 at the fire trucks, if you get like a 610 when drive by those fire trucks, that's considered like a pretty solid fire truck sellout, and this is going to be the first cutscene skip, hopefully. Of the
small window between mission complete going and the cutscene starting.
Yeah, so the mission complete comes and you want to pause.
2 pauses.
As you can see there, the first pause had the restart mission, cancel mission, impossible to click because the mission was complete, so you weren't allowed to do that because, the game's kind of like, nah, come on, mate, you finished the mission. You don't have to restart or cancel this.
Walk to the main menu there and you'd have to redo the mission.
Really? Awesome.
Yeah. People have done that generally. Generally, in missions where you main menu up after, if you're a little too trigger happy.
Like Wolves. I've done it in
Wolves. Is a common one.
Yeah.
I've done it after FBI in the old route.
So, that cutscene skip is probably the one which is the easiest for me to miss. I've missed it so many times.
Yeah, it's generally the most missed.
Yeah. The reason being that I think it's the one with one frame. But Apu allows you to spam.
Yeah. Apu, you have to do a setup if you want to pause buffer.
Yeah.
on lower FPSs, it's just generally easier to match. Most people will find.
Yeah.
I think something about being in the car as well makes Pooh and Part 2 easier.
I guess to bring everyone up to date on what's happening in the story, because that is the most important thing, but also to make sure that we can just sort of talk about whatever while the game plays on. So Homer 1 is Homer 1 is about Homer thinking that he's being spied on after having a somewhat like boring day killing his supervisor. Part 1 is about Bart trying to find video games which Marge destroyed in the 6th mission of Homer 1, eventually becoming complicit in the creation of a killer dinosaur robot, and then getting abducted by aliens. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. And then Lisa is about trying to get Bart back because Lisa isn't allowed to have story. And Marge is going to be about her trying to get Bart's brain back because Marge isn't allowed story. Of course.
Well, you've still got to get Bart back now.
This game doesn't pass the Bechdel test. That's all I'm saying. Or no, I think actually technically it might, because when Lisa and Marge talk to Patty and Selma after some of the races, because there's like little cutscenes where you talk to them because the DMV puts on races. Technically speaking, I think this game might pass the Bechdel test. So, well done,
it's like a close family member, so I think it's relevant. So it's not like, yeah. I think it's a bit different than usual for the Bechdel test.
So
Which is not something I expected to discuss.
Commentaries of me in them just always tend to turn into something else.
How many points do you have acts?
1,000. So
you can skip that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Normally,
on high FPSs, there's a trick called boat jump where you hit into one of the pillars and you get launched up into a what's called a death trig. It's designed for if you fall off the boat, you spawn back on it. But if you hit with your car by jumping up into it, it puts you on the boat. There's a couple of boxes you can grab, but it doesn't really work very well on 60 FPS.
Yeah, basically we managed to jump high enough that the game thinks we fell off the boat, and it puts us back on helpfully. And that is a fantastic launch of Millhouse into the gorge. I'm gonna have to give that an 8.7. Lambton?
I didn't. Did he actually go in the gorge? I didn't see it. He just went up in the air.
No. When you see a launch like that, he's in the gorge. That's where he is.
He spawned before he landed. So I didn't see him go in the gorge. It's a 0. I'm sorry.
Harsh.
Okay, bonfire strike. This is pretty hard strat, but there hasn't been.
And also on lower FPSs, you do have a greater chance of the truck phasing through you, which it was potentially about to do there when Cleo's truck fronted up onto 3 wheels, which is very frustrating because it's something you can't really manipulate very well.
Yeah, another sort of is trapped in the corner strat like we saw in Office Space.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Although in this case, it's just hit it to make him drop. But what you'll notice is that it's one of those examples where, because Cleo's truck would go around the dam, whereas we want to go across it, and also there's a lot of lampposts, because if Cleo's hits a lamppost, it'll sort of like he'll carry it with him, and it can actually buffer your ability to hit into him to make him drop stuff. So it's one of the examples where it's better for us to trap him, because he's not really going the same way we want him to go, rather than hitting him as he moves in the same way as we did during the first car sellouts and during Bone Storm in level 1.
Also, because there's quite a weight difference between the cars, it's hard to get the required power to force a drop from it. Okay,
that is true. Oh, Axie, not going for Fish Fan. I'm disappointed.
Got the compact.
Got the worst, actually.
It is officially the worst. I was going to do this little new trick where I was going to get out and warp here and warp him straight to Opto.
That is very, very spicy.
Yeah, shout outs to Bulmers who found that one.
That's a fairly new one, isn't it? Now, it's school bus. Yeah, I think optimally you want the pickup truck so you can just drive in and go straight over these rocks and carry Otto with you.
So we saw there the Wasp was too high in its cycle apparently for a big school bus.
Yeah, that was up and right, which is the worst position of its cycle. being further down and further left are both like good signs if you want to destroy the wasps. If it's right or up, those are the bad signs as far as collision is concerned. And a nice first, not quite the perfect first hit. If you hit him in a certain manner, he will keep on going. And for some reason, the way this game is coded, you can't destroy these cars with the first hit. So that car was one hit from death. Any kind of hit destroys it. But also, that car doesn't really understand how to deal with the dam. So it will actually drive into the dam and destroy itself. So if you hit in a certain manner, you can kind of like just drive past it after leaving it one hit from death.
Okay, now this guy here can turn either direction at the when you trigger it. It will turn the direction we want, fortunately. If it turns the other way,
Nice
it's
first
much harder to...
Ooh, but managing...
Yeah, there we go.
Not quite the perfect way of doing it, but very, very good for dealing with what happened. Ideally, what we want to do is we want to hit him, and he'll kind of like do a 180 and crash like face first into the wall, which is a lot harder for him to kind of like escape, whereas Axie had to kind of like drive against the force of the sedan going forward against them, which
Very
is
nice.
a bit tricky.
And that's another use of resetting to the closest road node, and we should see that again later in the run. So keep an eye out for that.
And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to do it. I'm going to have to do it.
Oh no, I forgot you do this.
So yes, there are 3 different camera perspectives. There's first person, close cam, and third person. My personal favorite is close cam, but you know.
Close cam is an abomination, and also you talked across exactly that moment to stop me from making my bad joke.
Yeah, this is a terrible camera angle. Very few people like this.
It's a god awful camera angle.
Like you can't see anything with cars in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Axe's
blocking Snake here to slow him down. The way so this is a sort of follow and collect mission work. Ooh, very nice. Okay, so the way it works is there's an RNG timer from 0 to 5 seconds, and when Snake hits the trigger, it will start that timer, and when that timer hits 0, it will drop that item. So Snake can drop that past the dam, which is very bad because then you have to drive all the way back around. So by slowing him down and blocking him, we try and like eat up that time, so you can drop the dam.
And later on, we're going to go into a mission called Wolf Stole My Pills, which has an issue where the sort of like because not only is there like the timer, but also there's like area over which certain drops can take place.
Yeah.
Except for the last one. I think the last one is not restrained by that, so it can only happen.
9. Well,
yeah, it's what happens is the ninth drop doesn't drop, and the 10th drop does. If I recall correctly, that's that's incriminating caffeine. I think perhaps it might be 8 and 9.
So it's the 8th or the 9th because the drops are so close together. If the time is too long and the car's going too fast, which we'll manage through using the rubber banding hanging back a bit, it can actually drop it past the trigger for the next drop, which causes that timer to not start, and it would have to do a whole other lap of its route.
Yeah, which is a 2 cycle, which is
either the 9th or 10th.
A killer.
Yeah, and it can happen in incriminating caffeine, but it's very rare, that one.
It can also technically happen in sleuthing, but like I think you'd have to attempt to make it happen, and then you'd have to do it a lot. I'm pretty sure it has been speculated that it can be done.
There's a condition: if Snake reaches the observatory, you fail the mission.
Is there?
Because you lost the race. Yeah.
What? I didn't know that. Okay. I am certainly a good representative of this community.
Yeah, so you can't get in that one. In theory, if you're able to force whichever car you're following to move fast enough, you could create other 2 cycles. In theory, a 3 cycle. If you were to say for Wolves, for the 8th drop, push it all the way past the trigger for the 10th drop, but I don't think that's feasibly possible without using the cheats.
So this mission, we have a lot of different strats to do it. A more recent one that's come is that you manipulate the limo to drive into the building, sort of like back and left of where we start. And that was a fantastic destruction. Well done, Axie. Honestly, that was like brilliant.
Guess the strat is beaten by an alleyway.
But you see that phone box right there, is that what we do is that we would make the limo crash into where the car is set to spawn from that phone box, and then we would spawn in a car which in its spawning would have like infinite collisions with the limo and make it one hit from death, and then we do a ground pound where we jump up and then like do an attack and it would destroy the limo. It's a very, very interesting new strat. Although I totally understand why you wouldn't go for it, because
Also,
you do it with Malibu Stacy car, which is a very light car, and it's difficult to manipulate the limo's pathing.
You do it with Mr. Plow, I think you can do
No,
it.
you do. You can't. No, you can do it with Mr. Plow, but Mr. Plow is what we spawn in. Malibu's the car that we use to manipulate the limo into position.
Some people use Mr. Plow to manipulate as well.
Most people use Mr. Plow, but it's very, very finicky on 60 FPS too.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, absolutely.
it's basically not worth it.
Are you going for donut fire?
I'm going to make sure I have donuts.
Okay, so like
there's a strat called Donut Fire, which is named after the bonfire mission, where you can push him into where that blue house is.
You could definitely attempt this here if you let him hit the front half of your car. So what a lot of people do is they'll intentionally buffer the sort of approach by letting him hit the side of their car and then let him hit the front side of the car in order to sort of like rotate you in, and then you counter steer against him to sort of like guide him with his momentum into the corner. Although doing this strat is absolutely fine. The only issue is that if you don't do this camera angle here, cars can just like suddenly appear and just like smack the back of the donut truck into you. And also sometimes the donut truck has weird decisions about when it'll like do an acceleration as opposed to like, you know, continuing to reverse backwards, and it just won't hit you hard enough to drop another drop. And also it can be a bit confusing when you're in that camera angle, because sometimes, you know, I don't know about you, but I just find that camera really confusing sometimes when I'm trying to find a donut.
Yeah, I just use the minimap to see which way the donut truck's planning. I'll just take traffic as it goes.
I learned that strat whilst looking over traffic, so I've never really done it any other way. So I just saw people do it. I emulated it, and then like there was, after I'd already nailed it down, there was no point
Traffic nicely too, to be fair, because it can really screw you up if you're not on the ball, especially garbage truck. It just push you, like spin you right out, so you can't get the strat.
So this is one of my least favorite missions in the entire game.
I actually had a streak of failing it quite often. You know, I had a long-term PB, but I failed this mission too, so same boat really.
Yeah, it's a very finicky mission, and also a very annoying one because it comes with like the inherent knowledge of like how slow Cletus truck is because we drive it so often. We know how like annoyingly slow it is, and yet the one time we don't drive it, it's just like, why in God's name is this thing moving so fast?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a big launch for 60 FPS right there.
Yeah, there's if you get a slightly earlier force stop than that, you can turn right down this alleyway, and there's a box you can grind coins from. Because normally, if you're destroying a box, it's 3 kicks, but if you just do 2 kicks and then unload the area and come back, it respawns all its health. So you can get.
You should be fine. You should be fine.
The drop wasn't good enough for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can do that against anything other than wasps. Yeah.
Yeah, Vens can do it too. So
but they're slightly less valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. We will see a Ven later for sure.
Are you sure? Have you asked Axie?
For sure.
Well, I'd be surprised if Axe doesn't do it. Axe, will you or will you not do Axie grind later?
I will be doing Axie grind later. Yes.
There you go.
You should not do it just to sort of show that it's your decision. Don't just like give in to determinism.
It's already done lantern coins. We need some Lexi coins quick that Alex can do in this run.
I mean, if you want to do a Lexi strat, you could just like buy March Classy before 4-6.
I was gonna say you could just miss everything.
You could just complain about 7-3.
So there you saw me do a pause on pause instead of the
There's-
normal ESS.
yeah. There was another one earlier we forgot to talk about. So it's similar to ESS. So you have to do it run through a countdown at the start of the mission. Usually, there's also one in the middle of 2-4, and then if you just use a phone booth normally or walk from an interior, you can pause on pause to skip a panel as well. And actually, the phone booth one's obsolete now because the ESS is a bit faster. There's less
Yeah,
input.
because you don't have to do the double input of two
Yeah.
pausing. Hey Axie, we've known each other a while, and I just thought I should tell you. If you stay in close follow camera, I'm disowning you.
It's very agreeable.
I'll file the paperwork to adopt you in order to disown you.
I mean, aren't I older?
I'll find a way.
Does that matter? Can you adopt someone older than you?
I don't believe so.
Quickly, someone Google this. Okay, so this is this wheel here, along with the robotic arm, in Lisa, and we're gonna see later in part 2, is on a global cycle. So basically, like, the way in which this game works is that like it only loads in certain areas at a time, which we use for various strats in many cases. But those are global cycles where they're always going somewhere. So a lot of people in some missions, such as the first mission of Lisa, will time themselves in order to make sure they get a certain cycle on that wheel or the arm or various other things to make sure that they're able to maintain momentum when they're driving.
Yeah, I'm actually not quite able to make it across that jump on 60 FPS. And also the cart's very hard.
Yeah,
And
but
it
it's
puts you in the middle. And you didn't time a car reset right. I guess you thought you were making it.
Yeah, it was very close. I thought I was close enough to get it, so I didn't hit the car reset in time. And then I hit the reset button as soon as the game had already reset me. It was like the same frame.
Okay, so this is the really important race that Alexi mentioned earlier. It's
Yeah.
very important, apparently.
So the you notice that like actually went to the phone to get this. Is that Malibu Stacy Car and Canyonero are about as fast as each other,
Yeah.
quite identical.
Malibu is a
But
better acceleration.
in the upcoming mission, we have to follow a car which is going to make a lot of like winding turns, and Canyonero, in a very like accurate way to the show, tips on its side a lot. And when it has to sort of like, the game has to kind of like reconcile with the fact a car has turned onto its side, will just suddenly like, elastic band you across the map and maybe destroy you or do something just very unfortunate. So not only do we get to do the ESS because we get to a phone booth, because the pan-in for the Return of the Nearly Dead, which was the mission we did just before this one, is extremely long. I think about like 5-6 seconds. Like,
it's around 4, but don't quote me on that.
it
There's a little
feels like about
surprise.
7 hours, let's just say that much. So even though it does take a bit of extra time to run to the phone booth, we A, get a better car in Malibu Stacy Car, and B, get the ESS. Although if you don't know how to do ESS, that does actually set you up for the pause on pause camera pan skip. So if ever you're doing that mission, if you're ever playing this game and you're a bit finicky with ESS, just do the exact same thing and pause on pause, and you'll get the exact same result.
Here's about where Axe is going to start hanging back, I imagine, for this to try and prevent this 2 cycle we mentioned earlier. There's another thing though, which kind of limits your hanging back, is there is a bar on the top left where if you're too far behind you'll fail a mission. But also if you're too far away from a drop you'll fail a mission. And that distance is less than the distance from being far from the car. So if the car's in between those 2 distances and drops an item, you lose, you fail a mission.
Yeah, it's to disincentivize, like, you just, like, intentionally missing something and just continuing to follow the car in order to pick it up later. Because this game seems to think it's difficult.
Yeah, this game has a quite nice difficulty spike, really. There's no real, like, huge jumps, in my opinion.
It's fairly decent.
I mean, there's fishy deals. That's pretty hard, right?
Oh, I'm pretty sure I failed that in multiple runs, to be fair. Usually when I was starting out.
I never knew how to get on. I remember Old Part in the Sea made me fail a lot as a kid because I didn't know how to get up onto the boat.
Fair.
Which is the worst way to fail, just because you're just outside, just like, how do I get on this boat?
So, I spent the whole of Wolves in close cam very nicely.
Yeah, I noticed.
I've been closing my eyes.
I can tell.
Maybe these ought to jog your memory.
Not partaking.
Regardless if you ever want to run this game or not, I'm just gonna recommend that Axie, that's very self-aggrandizing of you, wishing yourself luck. What the hell?
Thanking yourself.
So when Marge says crap circles, our boy, one of the oldest runners of our game, Pessimistic Mango, made a very nice emo called Crap Circles, which I just genuinely recommend, regardless of context. It's a very good emo. It's a fantastic emo.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone use it outside of context.
I'm going to make sure that happens eventually. I like how, watching this back, it just looks like Marge is like some mad conspiracy nut. Just like, oh really? You once saw a shape? I think I recognize that shape from a brand at the store. I think I'm going to, like, you know, destroy like actual fucking trucks with real human beings in them. It's real escalation. So are we gonna go for them? Yes, we are. Flanders here has 2 boxes, 62 coins, plus 1 wasp, 25 coins, which is 87 in total. Yes, quick maths. Which are just nice coins to pick up if you're ever low. It's one of the places where the game, or the run I should say, sort of has like a very forgiving element of just like, did you forget to pick up some coins? Don't worry about it.
Oh, we don't see much of that until Homer 2 though from here on out. Point to note, that main menu up there isn't actually for Wasp version, that's just to get the Kenny Narrow back for the mission after this one.
That is, well actually it does allow you to get collision. If you ground pound when you have collision, you can actually get a Wasp, which we'll see if Axie manages. Right there, yes.
There is a bit of a riskier route where you would be getting a Wasp in your car later on. But the main purpose of that main menu up is to get Kenny Narrow back.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a destruction mission coming up, and Kenny Narrow is a beefy car. It's far better than Malibu.
Oh, my game is getting very framey.
Oh, no.
It should be 60 frames per second.
Oh gosh. Invited Lexi.
Bye, Maxington.
You know what? I'm not getting that now for you. For that.
Yes, I'm proud of you, Max.
Wow.
Sticking the list of
Wow,
highlights.
the shade. Out there is Mr. Plowjacket, which, if you'll just give me a moment, I need to do something.
Oh god, I'm scared.
Just keep talking, Lambton. She can't hurt us if we keep talking.
So, Mr. Plowjacket features in the episode 9 of season 4 of The Simpsons, directed by Jim Reardon, written by John Vitti. Original air date November 19th, 1992, including the guest appearance of Adam West as himself.
So this is a pretty tricky destruction machine. It's 3 kind of hard stacks with tough cards. Yeah, that's a very hard.
You can hear the desperation in his
Try
voice
and
as
get
he
him on
tries
that
to
hole.
drown out what I'm talking about in Mr.
Talk about the
Plowjacket.
run.
That name again is Mr. Plow.
Maybe here. No. Which backup will Axe take?
I say you're gonna go for church sign here.
Church sign.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't-
I
well,
would say it's kind of strange to opt to do first person camera because you can't quite see where the truck is going in that instance, which is
I
a
would
bit.
find if you're just pushing the car from behind, first person fine.
I find
can
being
be,
in
yeah.
third person kind of blocks where I need to push or where I'm trying to push.
Yeah.
I suppose so. Oh, what about Red Blazer though? Go on, bounce. Red Blazer. No.
You can hear your heart break when accident go for it.
So the second truck is probably, I'd say it's probably the most like forgiving truck to not get the strap quite right with, because the first truck tends to move quite quickly and you have to slow down a lot in order to do damage to it. Oh, we're getting Canyon Arrow here.
Doesn't really have anywhere good to back up for.
Yeah, whereas the second truck here, you're gonna see it's gonna go through this tunnel, and when it does, it actually crashes on the way down. So you can follow him down and just like, you know, really just like, I'm trying to think of a word to refer to the way in which you're like slamming him down, but I can't.
Very
But yeah,
well.
you do tend to get quite a bit of damage on him, whereas the third truck can be quite difficult because it goes into open space, which means it's very hard to hit it against other things. See if we get the strat here. Idea is to push him into this fence, and then he will hit the tree. He is in. A very nice strat.
There we go.
It's also quite forgiving because even though Axie didn't get like the ideal version of it, which is where you hit him all the way up until the point where he hits the fence, so you get damage off that as well. It's only ever like one extra hit you have to do because hitting him against the tree with the Canyon Arrow always does quite good damage. So it's a very forgiving strat to sort of only get like half right.
Yeah, at this point, because here's around the point where things start to get a little tight. The Axe has got a pretty good going here. Like
Indeed.
the general consensus for a bare minimum is a 650 out march. And we're comfortably past that.
That's why I got Flanders because I was gonna
Like I
be
say, it's a marathon.
yeah, and because I'm on 60, I can't get boat jump later, so
Mm.
I need to be
Oh.
slightly higher.
It's more possible in part 2 than the Lisa one, but it's definitely very tricky.
Yeah, and back to what I was mentioning just briefly earlier, that the way that the interiors of all buildings don't actually exist inside of the model of the building. They are like very far away, like in other environments. That's why we managed that escape from Wiggum, because we didn't actually go inside the house. Wiggum was just like, oh, well, I can't do anything anymore. Drat. Some invisible force field here. It's actually that you just like disappear. Like imagine just like teleporting to Ecuador or something as soon as you go through your front door is essentially what Axie did right there.
There's
So
actually,
we're going to see if we can get this box again that we missed during 2-6. And beautiful. Going to pick it up right there on the left. Nice coins.
there's an escape section later on, which in theory you think you'd be able to do by going into an interior, but you can't because it's a 4-star mission, and it fails you for doing that.
Don't tell me what to do.
But if you want to join the shark community, we have a very active Discord and speedrunning community.
Yeah.
We have so many new runners every week, pretty much, and we have things specifically set up for new runners. And
What? That was an extremely long way to animate back into the car, especially given how like you're on the spot. But yeah, as Axie says, like we have a very honestly I think it's a very good community as far as everything goes. Like the fact that like I haven't run the game in a very long time yet still I'm just like very happy to do like commentary for our tournaments, which we do every single year it seems now, which is a really big development compared to where like the whole community was where I came in about like 5,000 or 6,000 years BC.
see, Alexi tries to act all old and wise, but in reality, she's just grumpy.
No, in reality, I'm just old.
Old and grumpy.
So this area here, the truck can get itself stuck, but what you can do, you see you get stuck there, is that what you can do is that you can either hang back so you're not looking at this area, or you can flick the camera to like look behind you, like what Axie is doing right now, in order to manipulate the way in which it moves, because it can get stuck in between the two fire engines there, which can make it quite difficult.
Yeah, that's again relating back to the object permanence. Yeah, AI cars tend to just drive better when you're not looking at them.
Yeah, because the AI cars, because like the game has to deal with them, they still exist, but the area around just kind of doesn't, because this game has the mental fortitude of a 2.5-year-old child.
But what color is the fire truck?
What's that?
What color is the fire truck?
Is this a trick question? Or just a very stupid one?
It's a
Family Guy?
Yeah, it's a Family Guy reference.
Yeah,
I can't currently see it, therefore it doesn't exist.
that's a fair point.
Make sure to not get this card.
Why? That's a good car. Refusing to get a pinhouse card. This is going a bit overboard with this card dodging now.
That's one of the boxes which is sort of like, in reference to like the run, has been in this very strange twilight zone where it just keeps on coming in and out and in and out, and people are just like, do we need to write it in? No.
You can, as opposed to buying the American costume and actually did, you can actually buy it at the end of that mission. You drove back down to Moe's and walk to 5-2 again, and you save time from not having to run out of Moe's and from pointing the right way at the start of the mission because it spins your power around.
And to whomever was asking you earlier about the Homer mobile, here is the time when we buy it. Car built for Homer. 500 coins. Homer's just sort of like, lurking around this car park. We don't really know what that's about. Like, because according to this game's logic, every single day, or every single level is a day. Because if you see at the start, there's like the, at the loading screen, there is the newspaper. And the whole point is that level 7 takes place on Halloween. So Homer... Oh, that was nasty.
So Axie was trying to get the baby vans like essentially anywhere along here to pick up these 10 drops, and the ambulance just pushed them away from the trap.
Yeah, baby van has very variable AI, where it's always a little bit dumb, a little bit like slalomy, but sometimes it will literally have a turning circle smaller than the length of itself. But this is like relatively smart AI. In the sense that it's smart if it can like escape the hospital area before like 20 seconds are left. Like, yeah, it's pretty smart, I'd say.
Getting the monkey box for that one coin.
Nice.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad of a baby van.
It was actually quite decent, but extremely unfortunate with the ambulance. But so according to like the logic of this game, Homer's week went. He went to work, but on the way killed his supervisor. His boss got mad at him for accusing him of like running a surveillance state within Springfield. He hung about a car park the next day. Then we don't know. Then I don't think he features in Marge at all, which is kind of strange. And then he hangs around the car park again, and then he briefly goes to the Krusty Burger, and then he brings down an alien plot. It's a very busy week for Homer, is all I'm saying.
He's also seen in Racing Part 2.
Oh yeah.
That is true as well, yeah.
I think there's some levels where you call the family to Dan, he'll be there. Definitely in Lisa.
Yeah, but that's cheating as far as I'm concerned.
Here's one of the trickier horror missions in the game because the traffic can really screw you around here.
Yeah, the area where the cola truck got stuck during 5-1, it's got that kind of like central partition. If Wiggum goes down the wrong side of it, he loses the node that he's supposed to go through, and technically speaking, you can guide him back to where he needs to be, but practically speaking, restart the mission. He can also do it in several other cases, and he will like miss a node and just start going around in circles. But that one in particular, because you want him to go down the side he did go down, which I think is the inside, but I always forget because I tend to just like not look to help manipulate the RNG.
Right side of the road for him.
But if he goes down the left, just reset. There's a lot of cases in the tournament runs we've been having, and in the Shark community. At very least one case where it did happen and like the runner did not know what to do because it is a somewhat uncommon occurrence. So it's also a real killer because like sometimes you think you can deal with it, but you really just can't. And you do see Axie here using the trick of looking behind to despawn cars. You saw there a truck despawned, there a car despawned, and that means that Wiggum's moving faster because our goal is to get him to the DMV.
Oh boy, more follow missions.
Oh boy.
This garbage truck can suffer from a similar problem to the baby van.
And also can miss a node as well. I remember during my 142 PB, or 141 PB, I think actually if it didn't happen I would have had a sub 140, like 4 years ago or something, where between the third and the fourth drop he just started going around in circles because he missed a node. And there is also technically one of those little green bars that you have to keep maintained. You can actually lose this mission by loss of proximity to the truck here.
And the drops as well, actually, because that used to be the strat in any % to fail a mission. Until we realised you can just go in the DMV to fail a mission.
Very briefly, any % is our, like, obviously any % the category of just like doing whatever you can to finish the game.
What?
This game has an inbuilt oh, hello there, garbage truck. The garbage truck just doesn't like Merc Quimby. Yeah. But this game basically says if you fail a mission 6 times, the 7th time you fail it, you will get an option to skip the mission. But the thing is, this game can't distinguish between you failing a mission and you intentionally restarting a mission. So the way any % works, in some missions where it's faster, we will intentionally restart the mission 6 times and then intentionally fail it to bring up the mission failed screen, which will now contain a skip option, whereas all story missions requires you to complete the story mission, which is why it's the most popular one, because you actually play the game, where any % is very uninvolved, frankly.
Hot dog.
Wow, you're not going to get Mr. Plow Jacket, but you are going to get hot dog.
I don't see an issue
with it.
At least get Chutney Squishy, in case LP3 is out there somewhere. Like, whether LP3 is watching or not, I reckon like his ears will just prick up if you get Chutney Squishy. I'm pretty sure that's like something he traded his soul to the devil for, the ability to detect that anywhere on Earth Chutney Squishy is being acquired.
I gotta do it for my boy LP3.
Hell yeah.
Oh.
No, you have to go further out, yeah.
Got there in the end.
I've done Hundo, I know how to do it.
Okay, as I was just saying, because clearly you didn't seem to have the aptitude the first 3 times you tried it.
Why did I invite you again?
Why did you invite me again? I think it's because you need grounding.
Sorry, I believe in you.
Which, incidentally, I'm going to do to you when I adopt you before I disown you.
I looked into that. You can't do it in the UK, but you can do that in 6 states in America.
Awesome.
I can't remember which states they are. I probably can.
They're probably the very good states. So this is the longest mission we actually do in the entire run. It's quite a boring one, but it's one that you can surprisingly find yourself losing quite a bit of time when you're earlier on in the run.
Yeah,
It's one of the few missions where you'll find yourself saving a lot of time before even though it's one you don't fail, because incriminating caffeine is usually the one that newer runners. Why are we doing this, Axie?
Because the wasps could be pretty bad when you do the level walk. So there you can walk back to 4-1 and then back here. For the
And double brick skip for the fans.
And that on 60 FPS you can actually run across that brick, which you can't do on higher FPSs.
Because of the way collision works.
Yeah, game done.
So I have to say, among the things to do to, exhibit this game's, strength, that's kind of the strange one. Just look, I ran across brick.
It's a fun strat for fractional time save.
Mom, get the camera, I skipped a brick.
Here's one of the biggest strats in the run, one of the older ones.
This is when you're learning the game. The big strat.
Into the stairs. Ooh, that's a bit far.
Ooh, that's not quite good. He's a bit stuck in there.
Actually, we'll have to push the armor truck out. And oh no, done it on itself.
Oh, he's oh, is he going to escape that? No, he's good. He's good. This is good. This is a good line, I think. Or is it?
I don't think so.
I'm not quite sure.
No, that's not. Either actually can go for
I think it's fine. I think that truck is fine.
No, it's slowly coming this way. I think actually can get the wasps though, because on 60 FPS it will do enough damage that by the time it's out, it won't have much left to do.
This is one of the missions which sort of defines you when you're earlier on in the run. Yeah, the truck is out.
Yeah.
It's very tricky. Forced car mission with a very sort of it's a fast but also kind of frail car.
But fortunately, it's done a lot of damage to itself, and if you late enough, that axe can still go for this major point here. On 60 FPS, it can actually grind itself along that wall and deal a lot of damage to itself.
Yeah, there was a brief period of time when people were thinking 60 FPS might be the fastest way to play this game because of several cases of when those collisions would make the game a lot faster.
It's really hard to do, but it's basically an instant destruction. That's where it gets the Nash costume.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there's a point on lower FPS where you can grind them along the wall and it's instant death essentially. Because collision is weird.
This mission does actually have one quite odd element, which is that so if Axie did get the strap and did get the wasp quite quickly, is that if you get a certain distance away from the armored truck, it actually deactivates because the idea we get him trapped and he just sort of revert Austin Powers is kind of forward back into eternity until he dies. But if you go too far away, the truck just stops and then you have to go back and hit him again to reactivate him. So there's certain places where you have to not go too far away, and the highway direction there's one route you're not supposed to take because you get too much of a straight line distance away.
Yeah, in theory, the fastest way back to the DMV area is to drive straight across, take the jump, and then car reset. But going that way stops the truck from destroying itself. Whereas if you take the normal shortcut by turning right, you can actually drive as far as the entrance to that area where the DMV is.
Curious Curator is kind of like similar to the last mission, Quick Cash, in that we're using a fast but also not very strong car in a destruction mission. The difference is that Curator isn't so much a powerhouse as just like a pretty like, a fast car with quite good control. And this might be workable, although it looks like we're going for back.
Yeah, should still get this strat.
Everyone get this?
That's harsh.
That is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Now, the issue with Curator, which sadly Axie is going to show, is that this area here, it's kind of hard to find places to collide with the Curator sometimes, and especially when you're earlier on the run, when I see people and they just like don't quite know how to deal with this. It's it's not a very easy thing to look at and just know what to do. So this is the longest cutscene if you miss it in the run. But the good news is that you can't actually get a menu until it's the menu you want. And on lower FPSs, you have longer in which to get that one frame where you can successfully pause. And actually does get it, which means we're not going to spend 2.5 minutes deepening our, quite frankly, like, subpar knowledge of lore in this game.
Yeah, you can also, especially if this is done on higher FPSs, you can alt-tab out of the game during the mission complete, which will bring up the pause menu, and you normally can't. And from there you can pause buffer, like Axie did for the block 1 person skip.
But when you do this pause buffers, it'll just be like when you're trying to do the pause buffers during part 1 cutscene skip, which is that you get like the restart mission and cancel mission things kind of like faded out. And managing to get board license plate, which does mean that this is a valid run, so well done, Axie.
There's a bot emote, so we've got it in chat.
Sadly, an emote which was taken from us all.
It was taken from VQVD and added to FOZ.
I know.
It's still there. It's a global emote, so just on the different platforms.
Uh-oh, hit and run.
You'll be
you just hit like
grand.
3 people at once. I mean, you had a lot of coins out of here, so you should be fine, right? Yeah, you can take it. Because if you haven't seen it, if you get so if you're close enough to them and going slow enough, well that was close, you'll get busted and you'll lose 50 coins.
They deactivate when you get the mission complete screen though, but sometimes it can feel like somewhat finicky as to whether it should have actually busted you or not. So we get the glow back.
There's a little gap before the mission's complete, and this mission actually has quite a big one.
So we get the Globex car here, and that is the grind, the Axie grind, as it is referred to. When we go back to that vent later, because we're going to leave the area in a way that will deload that vent, it'll refill with coins, basically, because, again, this game doesn't have object permanence for a lot of things. So it has 16 coins. We managed to grind 10 off it, because every time you kick it, it drops 5, except for the last one, which drops 6.
I mean, ahead of the truck before, and we've got time to dip into that mentality of grabbing another bend.
Yep. So we're going to end up actually getting 26 coins from a vend, which we should only ever get 16 from. No kiss of death there. Sometimes when you get too close to the Krusty limo there, which we're racing against here, basically I think the issue is that when it's sitting there before you are told to go up to it, it is just a sort of prop. It doesn't actually sort of exist as a car. And then when the race starts, it does spawn in as a car. And if the point is that you're supposed to leave your car and stand next to it, is kind of like what the story is trying to push you towards doing. But because we can drive our car up to it, in that moment where it does spawn, it can basically like throw you up in the air and leave you one hit from death, which is a bit of a yikesy moment if it does happen, because it's also a very aggressive racer. So in your attempt to pass it, it can end up destroying you.
Yeah. For plot reasons to what's going on and what we missed in the cutscene. So at the end of Marge tells Apu that the cola is actually mind control drink from the aliens.
Yeah.
So Apu's
which again, It just sounds like a conspiracy nut. The cola, mind control, aliens.
Apu's following a trail to find out who's behind it, and it leads him and Bart to the museum where they find Tang and Cola, of course. And they're going to distribute lasers around this Port tourist area because they're filming an intergalactic reality show called Foolish Earthlings. And so what we're doing now is attempting to counter their plans. I think we're trying to get to Krusty to. I think Krusty's setting up.
Krusty is the face of the distribution of lasers in the face of Buzz Cola, which is the aliens kind of business front, as we saw in, and just like to link this back, as we saw in the first cutscene of the game.
Yeah, so we're trying to prove to Krusty that it's done by aliens. So we're following Frank so we can talk to him because he knows about this sort of stuff.
Yeah, in order to find a laser gun, which we're going to hit off the back of a truck in the mission after this one. Going to talk to the squeaky voice team. He's got some very nice voice lines. And if you pick up all of the level cards, such as like Chutney Squishy, Mr. Plowjacket, all those lovely things, and warp back to Lisa, and go into the Android dungeon, the comic book store, a comic book guy is willing to trade you a ticket to a movie for all of the level cards, which obviously you don't lose. It's just sort of like a mark of like having completed that bit of the game. And then you talk to Squeaky Voice Teen outside of Aztec Theater, and you get to see an Itchy and Scratchy cartoon.
Mm.
That's a freak. No problemo.
I missed my favorite card of a game there. The Flying Hamster Project.
You could potentially do 6-7 in a weird route and then pick it up that way.
Yeah, that route a little slow and you miss out on those blocks.
You could really underperform in 6-5 and get it that way.
Oh god, or even 6-4. You can have such a bad 6-4 that it's worth coming back this way.
So this mission is pretty tricky because like the strat we do sort of requires you to be on your toes like the moment this truck spawns in, because we're trying to force them into this area on the right. And like even small things like that, which actually was not really that bad. Oh, but we do have a backup here, which is nice.
You have to be very precise around that corner to have the speed.
Yeah, you need perfect control around that corner. And this truck, incidentally, has a very strange, like, it's very hard to hit it exactly right to make it do a drop. I find like it's a much more...
It has very high acceleration, which makes it hard to get a solid hit on it, I feel. Plus, again,
I'm saying even when you trap it, I find it quite difficult to get a drop in comparison to like any other drop mission.
Gotta buy eggs for Bart. Bart!
Okay.
So there we go, we pick up a laser, and the goal is that he wants to show it to Krusty. And just for some reason, he's like, oh, I've got to go talk to Krusty. Who is this? It is Skinner, who doesn't really like me. I'll talk to him. And he confiscates the laser, so we're currently trying to kill Skinner in order to reacquire the laser. Are we going to get the strat? Not quite.
Well,
maybe? Oh, close.
But once you're not like immediately following it, it's
oh no. So the goal of that mission is to destroy him in that area in Krusty Loo, because that's where the next mission takes place. So it's very quick, so we don't have to mission warp. But also in Krusty Loo Studios, there is a room with 4 boxes and 2 vents. And in the explosion of Skinner's car, it can take a vent and a box, which will be picked up like automatically because it's technically considered to be a coins acquired while you're in the car, which like automatically gravitate towards you no matter where you are.
of
course we are.
In the Gabo doll card.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Gabo.
so it allows you to just drive to set to which is a bit faster. Get you 47 coins, and it's just
which you don't have to pick up later. So this is set to kill. So this is Bart is trying to destroy the laser stands because he gets to Krusty and he's like, oh no, it's too late. We already set up laser gun stands. They're all gonna kill each other. So the destruction of them is what you have to do. And this is a mission that a lot of people struggled with as kids
Actually,
because
it's
like
hard.
it takes quite a long time, and the way in which we sort of like broken this mission insofar as like why it's supposed to be difficult is we found a reset point inside of the sea spanker, the big ship, which allows us to like fold the map in on itself slightly. But also the timer for getting back to Krusty Lou after this is not dependent on how much time you have left after destroying the final laser gun stand. So by doing this route where we intentionally miss several stands to pick them up later because this is a more forgiving timer, we give ourselves more than enough time in order to get back for the Krusty Lou timer later. Originally, it used to be that we'd avoid the stand that Axie is driving by right now, or the one that was there. And I used to refer to that as blackjack strat because there's the 22nd one in order, and you want to avoid 21, 22, or 20.
That was very close.
Oh my god, manners it. That's very fortunate.
Yeah, and then we realised we could use that reset using Hellfish to grab these 3 shots later on. You can even leave the one outside the taffy shop for like, that's 60 FPS, sometimes you just go straight over that
Actually,
hole.
can I ask you what you expected there? Did you expect to get boat jump on 60 FPS?
Sometimes
Possible.
it works, yeah.
I, like, the last 2 tournament races did it.
Damn.
Yeah, without that, Axe is definitely going to have to, actually, regardless of whether or not that works, Axe will have to get
And you
these
see there,
coins
the vending machine did give 16 coins, even though it should technically only have 10 left from the earlier grind Axie did. And the reason why the destruction of Skinner would have also been good is that the back right box and the vend on the back wall would already be destroyed, so it would take less time to jump around and run around to collect all the coins.
actually be enough coins that you wouldn't have to collect the rest of those. Yeah, with boat jump and those FMJ coins.
I think also a Krusty Burger vend would be a good idea.
Yeah.
So the alien car that we're racing, it does a thing, which is that when it like gets to Squidport, it has really bad driving and will actually destroy a box for us that is on Squidport, and it will give us 31 coins. So I'll point out when it happens. But suddenly Axie is just gonna get 31 additional coins. So 500 coins is the cost of the last car. So that car's gonna go down here, and you're gonna see on the little note at the bottom, it's gonna destroy a box, and
It didn't
Wait,
destroy
I think
a
it
box.
did.
it didn't. Oh my god!
Well, this
Okay,
is
so
awkward. It's given a bit. It's gonna be a bit tight. I just have to drive back to the checkpoint over here that you don't get with the shortcut. But yeah, fine for
I
the
can't
mission.
believe one of the very few times I had competent commentary in order to, like, you know, foresee that something would need explaining.
Ooh, one
It didn't
pause.
happen. Nice.
Very nice. Yeah, fortunately, Axe had enough coins. Like 350 is like the sort of bare minimum
Yeah.
out of that level. So
Yeah, you just got to pick up
Oh,
neighbors just at the start here.
yeah,
So the idea of this mission is that the aliens' dastardly plan was not actually to use laser guns, but also that the Buzz Cola they were selling would reanimate the dead.
yeah.
But what is strange is that there are some characters who canonically are just out trick-or-treating, so it does create a very strange state of affairs where some people are genuine zombies and other people are just walking around. And then there's Carl, who we're going to see maybe. Not quite, but he's there by the opening to Springfield Cemetery, and he's just there. Carl's just like there. He's not doing anything. It's just Carl.
Even
Carlson.
Gil and the children who gave out the races, they're all replaced by zombies for this level. Yeah, Homer's grabbed a kit, some boards, and a chainsaw because it's the apocalypse.
So I've got all the coins I need now for us to run. We're gonna just come back to the cemetery.
To talk to a zombie
Mm.
and buy a zombie car, which we require in order to scratch head. I don't know. I forget.
I believe the story for that is you're following an extinct. Yeah, you're following the alien car on the next mission. So you want to be in the zombie car to not draw suspicion or something.
Ah, yes, the inconspicuous zombie car.
Which is why
The
this
one
mission
that
is
is
called,
constantly smoking out of its
It's called
back.
incognito. It's because they think you're a zombie. It's called incognito in the French.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's called incognito in French.
Because you're incognito, you're pretending to be a zombie.
So as long as I get out of bounds decently, we'll be underestimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, underestimate is
Yeah.
looking pretty good for 7-3.
Yeah.
I guess there's no one else, to talk about 7-3. There's no one else to talk about it other than So Axie, tell us about 7-3.
Okay, so as the founder of 7-3 and the guy who thought, let's do 7-3, one day I just went,
Because people
yo.
need to be punished. Yeah.
So Lambton, tell us why.
Lambton is the discoverer of 7-3.
I saw Vapo hit the wall and get out of bounds and Glovex in 7.5, so I copied it in the hover car. That's the story. I stole the strat from somewhere else, done by someone else.
This feels like that episode where it turns out that Itchy and Scratchy were actually plagiarized. Oh my god.
Which is an extension of
Lambton stole.
which I found in a different place. Oh, that's not good.
Oh yeah.
Up there, it's probably going to drive around now, which is a bit of time loss.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
It's like a double ripped off strat, essentially, because I'm pretty sure it was ripped off and Vapor found it from 7-4, so it's a different part of the map, same car. But yeah, this is a nice mission on FPS because collision, so we'll talk you through it as Axe does it. I think that'll be easier to Axe.
Yeah, we'll talk about it as it happens.
In a head
So you
towards
see
the
all those
head.
cages hanging around. Some of them do have collision, so they sort of dictate your path out. The idea is you want to hit it very hard, but not so hard that you destroy the waist, and it kind of like kicks up your back. You reverse, pull down and left on your analog stick, and then you should hopefully get up. The one with the sort of like dude just chilling can actually kind of help you sort of like path into it. And then Axie is out of the map. Well done. Let's go. Out of bounds.
Just the direct line to the school.
Yeah. So the level 1. This is level 7 is basically level 1 except minus everything beyond the bridge.
Yeah.
So essentially, we're going through what is supposed to be like the sort of posh area with all the like the rocket car, the mansions, and everything like that. So what we're going to do here is that we have to run to get to the mission trigger for the next mission. But the issue is we have no car because the game is deloaded. So by starting this race and then cancelling it, we get our car. And one important thing is that you can't jump when you're out of bounds because you will just like fall through the floor and fall forever. So Axie is currently got the car there and now is going to go back outside and try to get over the car in such a way that you don't fall out. And the issue is if you park too closely, that is what can happen. You can't really see where your car is and you'll just like fall forever, which means that you have to play this mission inbounds. And we're also going to play 7-5 inbounds as well as a result.
Yeah. The reason the out of bounds works is usually the boundaries of the level have infinitely high walls called fences, but where they've just chopped the map away, they've just like regular collision on the walls. So the ceiling doesn't have collision at the power plant, so you can just bounce off, climb up a wall and get out that way. And then while the area is deloaded, there's no collision at the dead end. So what the intention for this mission is you park your car outside like the back door essentially of the power plant. So in a way that you can get back in. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, we're bridge okay, this is good. I'm actually kind of happy.
Anyway.
Oh damn. Okay, so and at the end of this mission, you climb the power plant to talk to Mr. Burns in order to get access to more nuclear waste because this level is literally the same mission done several times. And then what you do is you actually go and pick up a traffic car, because remember, the 70 sports car is parked outside of the map at this point. And then you pick up the waste in that car, because this game for some reason does have object permanence when it comes to where the waste is. So it understands like what car has the waste, because every single car has an identity. Because there are two little coffin cars, but they each have an identity individually. We call them Spooky Bob and Spooky Greg, but that is not their names. The witch broom, the Flying Dutchman kind of like boat car, and the hearse. So you drive back to where the tractor beam is, and you basically like manipulate a traffic car to come. And if Spooky Bob, Spooky Greg, or whichever vehicle you've used to pick up the waste comes back, you leave your car, get into theirs, and then put it up into the waste. But in this case, we have to do the OG means, which is to use our vehicle to destroy the nuclear waste.
The difference between Greg and Bob, by the way, is the RNG. Greg obviously gives good RNG, and Bob gives bad RNG.
Greg's a good guy. Like, he's like, oh, you want me to bring the waste? I'll be right there. And Bob's just like, do you want me to bring the waste? Seriously? What? And just goes, no, I'm making detours on the way. I don't care.
So yeah, the Full was the first time I've ever messed up that park.
Yeah, if your parking's a bit weird and your run towards the car's a bit weird, you can actually run over like the collision of the door and then fall down because you're not over the car properly.
Yeah, I think that's what happened in this scenario, but that's literally the first time I've messed one up.
You parked very. I don't think you were so close that you immediately fell, but you were so close that like it was it was difficult to turn around because the way in which. Not you gone.
If you're very close, you can actually lock the game. The game. Hard lock. Sorry.
Because like the way in which that works is that like the car kind of has like an infinite area above it where it kind of understands this is where the car exists, and if you stand above it, you will fall into it. Like you will lose the place you are in out of bounds because it kind of like decides that's where the floor is. And once you start falling, unless you have something solid to catch you, you will fall forever.
Yeah.
So 7.6 involves a little bridge clip, which is not what everybody does because Axie is on 60 FPS, and as we mentioned earlier, collisions are a bit weird with 60 FPS. So brick skip happened earlier, and now we're going to go on to bridge skip.
Yeah. There's two other ones we'll quickly go over. There's jump zone. So on like a lot of ramps in this game, there's a sort of trigger called jump zone where you have insane acceleration. If you park your car in one, get out, and then have the car however way pushed out of the jump zone, it keeps that trait, so you can use that to launch yourself using a jump in the cemetery out of bounds. You can abuse the car reset function to bypass loading triggers to get out of bounds. You can do everyone's least favourite bridge flip, where you essentially regulars have terrible collision in this game and you can just drive through them sometimes.
We got a first try though. So if you do too close to the you see here like this area is deloaded because this game isn't like coded in a way that can understand the whole area. If you get too close to where the power plant is when you're in the out of bounds area, this area does load again, and you have to do it in bounds because the wall is there. Because you notice like the wall is supposed to be there, but it's not. And my apologies if you can hear some strange noises. My dog is currently like tearing up on my carpet because she thinks she's a puppy.
Dog champ.
Exactly.
The pet is always above the owner.
And here we have to trigger the alien car, otherwise we do something known in the community as crutching it. Crutch is now actually like the main man in the community. But back when he was a lowly runner, just a mere runner, he forgot to trigger that car.
Quite a few times. Okay,
yeah.
Here, unfortunately, we have to load in the area to hit the trigger to end the race.
Yeah, because that's the way. Like the first mission, the first autopsy doesn't have any like secondary objectives, the second autopsy, the one with Snake, we had to escape from the alien car, but because we were out of bounds, like we did that relatively quickly. Although Axie did it whilst inbounds. Although actually, with the autopsy 2, the goal would be that we'd already be out of bounds, but we'd have to go back inbounds to get to the trigger of alien car. And in that case, we just had to trigger its race and then reload the map in such a way that we get back in. Now, Axie, if you blow up the waste, you will go over time, so good luck.
Interestingly, 7.4 has an escape section, but you can just skip that one.
Oh yeah.
The game doesn't care if you skip that one.
And Homer just starts like pumping his arms up and down when it does happen.
You also don't get the really trolly credits music if you skip it as well for the climb section. Because it uses the credits music, which is very annoying when you fall off the platform.
You do have to escape the alien car again, and it can't. What happened?
How did that
God,
man?
What?
What?
Oh, was that some sort of extension of like the lamppost glitch where
That was absurd. Okay,
there's
so
a glitch in the game where you can like drive into a lamppost and ground pound your car and it just launches you. I don't know if
yeah, you can like blow up the waste, but like if you drive into the Witch Broom or Spooky Bob and Greg, you tend not to blow it up, even if you hit them at a at a very high speed. If you hit the Ghost Boat with the reasonably high speed, you can blow it up sometimes, but like if you don't hit it too hard, you don't blow it up that often. The hearse can blow it up at relatively like medium speeds because it is pretty solid. But like those lampposts are not very solid. But so there's this glitch you can do in the game where you knock a lamppost over, then ground pound it, and then it'll launch your car very, very high, and it's very, very funny. Just look up Shar lamppost glitch, and you'll see it. But that was probably what happened. That was absurd. Like there's no reason to expect that to happen. There's zero reason to expect that to happen.
Yeah, that is. I've never seen that happen or heard of that happening to anybody before.
That's the first time I've seen that.
7 or 8 years of playing this game between the three of us.
Yeah, so we go overestimate, but that was 100%.
100% the game.
So when you drop the waste, you have a minute to get back. It's tied to the time that you actually had to get there in the first place. The same is true of 7.6. But if you trigger the alien car before and go like what's the whole soft lock thing again? Like there's a phase at which if you go past it and then you try to trigger the alien car again, you will soft lock the game.
Yeah. If you've completed the alien car section, the escape section, the alien car despawns, then you block the race, you drive back, pick up the race again, you drive back around. It wants to re-trigger the alien car thing, but because it's despawned, it's not there. The game freaks out and it crashes.
Yeah, it's a very interesting state of affairs. But it tends not to happen because if you've gone past the alien car because we slow down in order to let it get out of the way and then we go through, you typically don't have enough time to get back anyways.
Okay,
so
let's avoid this lamppost.
Restart.
Yeah,
just avoid everything, honestly. So we're gonna finish up with time in a sec, hopefully, if Axie gets up there. And we're going up. Okay, so thank you, Axie.
And that is time. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I apologize we went slightly over, but that is literally a glitch that I've never seen happen before. Of course, it happens in a marathon.
Always does.
You guys get to see something we've never seen before. Thank you. I am axington123. This has been Lambton and Alexis. And thank you for having me.